What I really hate? Burnt toast.
Oh,
You know what?
Happens.
Burning your
hate
toast.
I hate when that happens.
Like, some people like try to scrape the burn bits off.
dude. Well, for me, it's like what I do is I let it burn a few times. Right, I have like 5 or 6, and then I let it like all that horrible, like when you pull it out, and then like some of the crumbs go into that tray.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
like the
pulled that
pure
out,
carbon.
And then and I pull that carbon out, and I put that into my peanut butter mix, and then I mix that up, and it's like fizzy peanut butter. It's like carbonated peanut butter. Anyway, no, that's what I do because it's really nice. It's like crunchy peanut butter, and I buy smooth peanut butter, and I make it crunchy because I like peanuts. I have no idea when we're going to start. I don't even know what our intro role is.
It's essentially the Azor Elocutors of podcasting.
Yeah. Okay. For everyone at home, let's start the podcast right now. What does Azor's Elocutors do? Word for word.
The beginning of your upkeep, add a filibuster counter to it.
A filibuster counter. I love this card.
If you have, is it 10 or more filibuster counters, you win the game?
I think it's 5.
5 or more.
I think it's 5.
But then
Yeah,
can't you
5.
pay mana to add filibuster counters to it? No, you just need to do proliferate shit.
I think it's just at the
All right.
beginning of upkeep you get one. If you have 5 turns with it in a fair game, you win.
All right, so welcome to the first of the brand new From the Vault podcast, a podcast basically about tabletop hobby, kind of from a store and I guess, I don't know, player perspective. We're both players, obviously.
Primarily.
I'm a store owner. Trent is one of the people that work in the store. He also manages all the single stuff. So TCG singles, powered by Vault Games, obviously.
You're a store owner in the sense that you own the business. Well, co-own, everyone, keep in mind. Co-own the business, right? But I'm a store owner in the sense that I'm in the store and I own it. That's what I'm a store owner.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
So hopefully you get to enjoy this brand new podcast. If you want to see more of it, make sure you click like on the video, leave us a comment down below, joining in the discussion, because that's what this is all about. And
comment section,
ring the bell, get notified every time a new video goes live here on the Vault Games YouTube channel.
Like 10% of you are subscribed or some number. Subscribe if you get the opportunity. Really appreciate that. And that's if you like this content. Let it get to the end of this video and then decide. Honestly, don't pause right now, all right? Let us earn it.
Okay. All right, well, let's... I don't know where to go from that. Like, you go on these hard tangents.
I do.
All right, so this is...
that.
Welcome to Stream of Consciousness, really.
Yeah.
From us.
It's not a stream, don't get confused.
It's not a stream, no. This is pre-recorded.
Nobody's watching right now. Nobody.
Well, no.
I'm watching
Producer
right
Piper's
now.
here.
That was my segue.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, except for our producer. Hello, Piper.
Hey,
Welcome to
Piper.
the screen and welcome to the world.
The lights make it look like I'm frowning.
You are kind of in a... You're doing great.
Wait, you're not perpetually frowning?
No.
I am, yeah.
Oh no.
I'm continuously unhappy with the endless existence that I've been faced with.
This podcast's going great.
Yeah.
What
It's
we talk about
great.
today?
It's all up and up. All right, so
let's talk about today.
Well, let's kick
What are
off
we
with the
doing?
news. The news roundup from some interesting stories over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
All right. Let's start off with the big one with Magic, because we're both big Magic fans.
Everyone's a big
Magic fan, and the store's a big fan of Magic as well. New Oracle text on Gatherer has updated cards with both the landfall and surveillance mechanics.
Yeah, surveil, right?
Yeah, surveil, sorry. Surveil mechanics as fully printed keywords.
Yes.
And no longer just the text of the same keyword. Right?
Yeah. It's like the reverse of what they did to heroic, right?
Yeah.
Where in like Theros, there was a heroic, it's like it was like keyword. And then they're like, oh, no, we're just going to make, if you target this creature, we're just going to make it the full line.
Yeah.
Because it's all these kind of mechanics tend to say like, insert keyword, insert condition that the keyword would imply.
Make sure you get
Oh,
that,
sorry.
Mike.
Yeah, we're learning chat. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast.
Yeah, well, I Consider was always a card for me that I absolutely like railed on because it was essentially surveil draw a card.
Yeah, and it was printed like in the same like there were surveil cards printed very close to it. It wasn't like it wasn't like a year and a half after surveil and we had moved on, or it wasn't like Ravnica owns surveil, because it was introduced in Ravnica Allegiance, wasn't it? Or like
Surveil was, yeah.
Or was it Guilds of Ravnica? Like whichever one of those two in the block.
The one with Demir.
Well, yeah, obviously, but
It was Ravnica Allegiance because I played.
Sorry.
I believe it was Ravnica Allegiance because I played way,
Yeah, I think it was
way
Ravnica
too
Allegiance.
much.
Tell us in the comments why that's
Yeah.
wrong. But yeah, it was introduced in that set, and then it was like, it was quite soon after that we got more surveil cards. And then we got that commander in Midnight Hunt commander that was like, when you surveil, do things. So the fact that Consider didn't surveil meant that it was like, what a weird card. It surveils, like by definition. But it doesn't trigger this commander to investigate.
When was Consider printed, Piper, by the way?
Yeah, let's bring that up.
Yeah,
Pull that up, Jamie.
Yeah, pull that right. God.
But yeah, no, so I feel like, surveil is very recent. So it's good to see that they're committing to the keyword. Which is important.
Surveil was 2018 2018 in Guilds of Ravnica.
Guilds of Ravnica, there you go.
Yep.
See, so it was Demir's Guilds of Ravnica. There you go. We were wrong.
Yeah, because it's got Gary.
Literally our first thing that we said.
Azorius and Orzhov was Ravnica Allegiance because I
Yes.
played way too much Esper in that set.
Yeah, absolutely. God, it's such a good set though.
Yeah,
I love both those sets. Like the whole block, even War of the Spark, which has its grievances, but
Was it
what amazing sets,
was it
guys.
the first core set after Ravnica? I think it was. It was like core 19 or core 20.
When Consider was printed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it was very soon after. But so what does that translate to? Do you have a list? Like what else does that translate to? Is it just the Surveil? Like what other cards are getting Surveil that matter? And also, here's important. While we talk about this, I'm going to bring this up. What commanders key off Surveil? Like, do we have any reason to care about the keyword Surveil?
I don't know. Maybe there was an uncommon Dimir one floating around somewhere of a Surveil, but the only Surveil commander that was really noticeable is the Midnight Hunt commander one.
Yeah, she's the one that's like
Eloise.
Eloise, yeah.
Eloise.
So I'm looking at a bunch of like Surveil cards right now that just kind of care about
There was
like,
a few
triggering Surveil.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, we trigger Surveil. A lot of stuff triggers Surveil. A lot of stuff has now got Surveil attached to it.
There was a
But-
few things that triggered off Surveil too that were quite important.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's the important one, right? So, for example, like you've got Enhanced Surveillance, which lets you look at additional 2 cards each time
Yeah.
you surveil for 2 mana. That's pretty useful.
Yeah.
So there are cards that actually care about Surveil. There's like 2 I found already, Eloise and a blue enchantment. So if you wanted to go into like a Surveil style of deck, that's what you're going towards, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the fact that cards are getting Surveil must be like there's a thing called, maybe you don't know this at home, but there's a thing called in trading card games, PSCT, which stands for Problem Solving Card Text. And it's a way that they resolve like a really convoluted way that they write cards in their original printing, like years and years ago. This is like a long time ago, before there was like a R&D team or before there was like peer review on cards. It was just like, oh, Richard's like, I like this card. We're playing anti now. So that was how it was in Magic, and for a long time with a lot of these like cards.
And that
games,
went
like,
out great.
Yu-Gi-Oh's the same, right? There were cards that were like, oh, remove from the game. And that was in Magic as well for a long time. And they're like, well, remove from the game is implying that it no longer exists within the game. So it's like, oh, if I remove this from the game entirely, can I access it with like a wish card, right? And it's like, no. It's still in the game. It's just not in the game. So they're like, oh, we can't do that. So we have to introduce like a keyword. Like, for example, in Magic was Exile. That was introduced very early in the game. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, it was Banish. And it was introduced in Yu-Gi-Oh like in the game much later than Magic's history, like way later than it should have. It's been a staple now, but for years now, but like, way later than it should have. And this is a good example of that, right? The Surveil thing.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a good example of them being like, oh, we just don't want to be forced into like making these things different. Like we're forced into, we've now made Surveil cards that don't say Surveil. And we've actively made that decision after we've made Surveil. So now we have to, when we make a Surveil card, there's like a decision-making process of whether or not it has the Surveil mechanic or not. And it's like, why put this extra piece of work on this if you're just going to go, oh, we could just fix it.
I think the main problem they didn't put it on there too was that the fact that the sets that they were printed in were never referencing the word Surveil anyway. So they can't just put Surveil and then explain what Surveil is, because then we'll be like, but Surveil's not a full card. Full mechanic.
That's a
But
good
now-
point. It's like, or maybe there's a layer, sorry if I'm interjecting, but maybe there's a layer where it's like, it belongs to Ravnica. Like that was maybe their thought process.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
They do that. We have like Transform belongs to Innistrad. That's why the Transformers cards in Brothers War have Convert and not Transform. Because Transform exists in Innistrad. That's why dual modal cards don't transform. Because that's Innistrad. No one else can do that. So it makes sense that they would go, oh, we don't want to put Surveil on Consider because it wasn't printed in Ravnica.
That's true.
But then they're like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make
well,
any
it's clear-
sense.
it's
Like
clear that-
actually,
But they did say recently that their R&D team has now shifted away from, have shifted to a eternal format thinking.
Yeah,
when it
which
comes
is-
to R&D, which is likely why Surveil has become deciduous.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, no,
Um,
definitely. I think
the
that's
big one
absolutely
too
right.
is Landfall.
Yeah,
Taking it out of just Zendikar, because there is so much stuff that triggers based on land entering the battlefield now, and it's
Yeah.
not just Zendikar related. That it's
far out. Yeah, like heaps of stuff. I mean, it always has been the case, hasn't it?
yeah.
And I think that's where I get interested about Landfall. It seems to me that Landfall, and this is no, I say seems to me, but I've done the research, it's true. Landfall's existed long before Zendikar.
Yeah.
It just had the Landfall mechanic in Zendikar.
because they built
So-
a whole set around that mechanic,
That mechanic.
essentially, right?
And then
but
yeah.
it just becomes such a there's at least one card in every set that has some form of landfall that's relevant.
And that applies to Heroic, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of the same situation where Heroic felt like there were cards that triggered off being targeted before Heroic existed. Then Heroic was the Theros mechanic, and then they kind of got rid of it later on because they were like, no, Heroic is the Theros variant.
Well,
So-
the big catch there is really that Heroic hasn't really had a big eternal element to it, as Landfall has. Like so many Landfall pieces. What's up?
Sorry, hold on. What's going on?
Oh,
That's all good. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the landfall is such a like important piece of particularly Commander when we talk about eternal formats. That there's a whole bunch of cards that revolve around landfall or just do landfall things that don't have landfall. That if obviously if R&D is going towards that eternal thoughtful process, then it makes sense to make landfall just a straight deciduous mechanic. Yeah, then they don't need to write out that every time something enters the battlefield now. They can just say landfall, this happens.
Well, do you feel like that's right? Do you feel like then in that case the layer is almost like we're moving away from trying to commit to mechanics and sets? Is that kind of like what you're feeling about this? Because that's what I'm feeling. If we're saying like
even the commander deck releases, sorry to interrupt, but even the commander deck releases have changed that much as well.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like the call time commander decks were very call time focused.
Yeah,
and now it's just gone. Boop.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, it's also like I noticed in the Brothers War commander decks recently, there's an overload card.
Yeah,
like a new overload card, which is usually meant to be a Ravnica exclusive. Overload was introduced, I think, in like Gate, like the second one, Return to Ravnica. I think that was
Gate
Overload.
Crash.
Yeah, Gate Crash. That era, Return to Ravnica, Gate Crash. So I think that they went, and I mean, we've had this for a long time, obviously, in commander decks. They try to tech in those key little mechanics.
Yeah.
But I think that if they're going towards eternal thinking in general, that might be what they're doing in the sense of like, we're just going to make sure these mechanics can kind of exist everywhere.
Yeah.
So we have maybe, Landfall and Surveil are our more evergreen, that the jargon.
Yeah.
For stuff that's like, this exists in the game forever. This could be in a core set and it would be fine.
Yeah.
And was considered a core set card, like 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, right? It was like a core set card. So I feel like Surveil is now by definition an evergreen mechanic because it exists in a core set. Or at least like I say that pushes it towards being evergreen at least. You could argue that it is. So I think that's I think it's cool. So we're talking about Surveil, right? A mechanic that doesn't matter in a way that we're giving a lot of impact, but really, let's be honest, like, who fucking cares about Surveil? Like, who cares, right? Nobody cares about Surveil. It's just a mechanic. Like, I don't think most people even care about landfall because the cards that care about, like, interact with landfall, interact with, if a land entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of yours to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Like,
it cares about triggered abilities.
Yeah,
not
first of all,
yeah.
PSCT. Fix that. Wizards, that's a long line of text. But also, Ancient Green Warden, Yarok, the Desecrate, all those like double trigger cards. Even like none of them will say, when you trigger landfall. And if that was what we're looking at, like, when you trigger landfall, that, and that's probably where they're looking towards, that'd be really cool. But at the moment, they're all keying off that. So my point is that, what does this mean for mechanics going forward? Like, what is them changing to Surveil, making everything have Surveil now, or at least what the cards that do Surveil have Surveil. The cards that do landfall now have a landfall. Does this mean that we're going to get more and more mechanics happening this way? Or does this mean that we're going to have more and more mechanics come out that cards directly key off? Like literally say, when you trigger landfall, when you surveil, that kind of stuff. So
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's more interesting to go into, but it's more interesting for me to look at the future of the game.
Yeah.
And go, what other mechanics are going to kind of go when you trigger this thing? Like, is Heroic going to come out now and then Feather now says, when you trigger Heroic? You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
Stuff, right?
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. So
I mean, was it Zada Hedron Grider? When you trigger Heroic, copy it for every creature you control.
Yeah, exactly. Mirrorwing Dragon when you trigger Heroic. Like when you trigger this, or when this triggers, or maybe there's some keyword for it, or whatever they want to do.
I mean, I could definitely see Surveil being a big thing for Phyrexia All Will Be One, considering we're going back to new Phyrexia.
I mean, I think by definition we can expect Surveil in All Will Be One. I think definitely, and March Machines. I would be expecting we see a little bit of Surveil in that. I think obviously definitely in the vein of Phyrexia, looking at the top card, getting the information from like the back end, one of your sleepers gives you the information and you decide to just throw it to the bin because it's not useful.
I don't want to land.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, more importantly as a Phyrexian, you're like, this is not perfect to the side. I need perfection in my deck. It's very on theme. So I wouldn't be surprised if Surveil made like a return in that set. And that makes sense. Obviously it makes sense that they're like, we're going to change these keywords for an upcoming set.
Yeah.
So what I expect is actually, obviously there's going to be cards that surveil, but I expect we're going to see a lot of cards in All That Will Be One or All Be One March Machines that literally trigger off that. They say when you surveil. I think that's what we're going to get. And that should be very exciting. So chat, dating this video, but that should be really interesting. I hope we see in that some surveil, like when you surveil, do X, Y, or Z, because it's a cool mechanic. And Eloise, Navalia Scourge? It's not Scourge, right?
Scout? Whatever.
Sleuth.
Sleuth.
Eloise Nephalia Sleuth. She's cool, and I love that deck. I just want to say that, by the way. You should look her up and look at EDH. She's a cool deck. So, as far as the Demir Pie is concerned, because some of those commanders are, we've all versed Scarab God a few times, but She's cool in the space. So, it'd be good to have more cards for that for obvious reasons. So, yeah. Surveil's cool. It's a cool mechanic. Is it... Okay. Sorry. Last point on Surveil. Do you like it more than Scry? Do you like it more than Scry? It must be objectively better, right?
Look, it's probably strictly worse than Scry.
Whoa. I think it's strictly worse than Scry. Because
Because it reduces your deck.
But reducing your deck isn't bad. What's the negative of reducing your deck?
I mean, like, it just ultimately reduces the number of turns you have. Like, straight up.
Okay,
Like,
if you're talking about the context of like decking out,
Yeah.
that's valid. Let's put a pin on that. So you deck out faster.
I think there's strategies that want it, that want stuff. Obviously, they want stuff in the graveyard. The whole Demir strategy during Guilds of Ravnica was about that. There's a lot of milling decks that are still doing the rounds. So that's perfectly fine.
But even flashback, even jumpstart, all these mechanics that are like play from the graveyard. Even retrace,
Dredge.
Unearth.
Right? Unearth.
Oh, yeah.
Like any of these effects, right? Like a lot of colors can access. And Surveil, and you talk about being in Demir, right? And Surveil is a Demir mechanic, right?
Yeah.
It's a Demir mechanic. So if we're in Demir, and we're playing Surveil, we're probably in Demir, right? Or at least in blue. So we're playing with flashback by definition, because we're playing cards like maybe deep analysis, whatever. We're playing those cards. We might even be looking at like Surveil in a Izzet deck that's like a Mizzix Izzet deck or something that's looking for Past in Flames or Underworld Breach or stuff like that, right? So Filling Graveyard's good in that respect. But here's my question to you, right? Like in Scry, more often than not, unless you start injecting in like fetched lands and stuff like that, if you're bottom decking a card, you might as well not see it for the rest of the game until you shuffle your library, right?
Yeah.
Right? So if you're bottom decking a card, that's almost like removing it from your deck. It feels that way. I mean, you get to it later on the mill side, but outside of mill, I feel like it feels like Surveil is the stronger variant, right?
Oh yeah, I guess I can see that.
Because like
I
it
can
feels
see
like
that.
if you're, but then it's like I think like we talk about brainstorm like marsh flats a lot, right? Like I go brainstorm, I put 2 cards on the top, and then I shuffle my library. It's really good with Scry. So I think there's definitely a valid argument to be made around like it's because I have fetch lands, they exist
Because you can shuffle your library.
Because you can shuffle your library very easily in Magic in most formats. It's like better. But then if let's talk about Commander, and let's pin on that format, which we talk about a lot. We play a lot of Commander. I play almost exclusively Commander. And we have a lot of Commander. In that mechanic, in that format, shuffling your library is, let's be blatantly honest, right? In an 80-card deck of one-offs, are you really shuffling your Scry to the bottom to the top every game, or even close to the top?
No.
And then if it's close to the top, is it 12 cards in and I have to Blue Suns where X is 9 to get to it? No, X is 12, Trent. But like 15 mana, I mean to say. So 15 mana to get to that card? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Feels really rough. So who knows? I think Surveil's a lot stronger. And I think that Surveil going into this like, oh, these cards all have it. We're going to make, or maybe all we want will trigger it, whatever. We're going to make more cards of it. I think it will prove to be even like more and more powerful as you get into Commander specifically, like as an Evergreen mechanic in that format. Because, all of my Scry decks now, if I'm making Surveil decks, if we're going into more colors, I don't know how it's going to go. But they now are filling up my graveyard as well as like filtering my draw, which is, I think, insane. I think that's really solid because all of a sudden now I can interact with this. Like, because I'm playing these cards in my deck, I'm building my deck. Obviously, I'm not just going to go, oh, I have no recursion in this deck, and I'm surveilling with 15 cards. Like,
Historically, I think that like your graveyard is easier to access than the bottom of your library, right?
Yeah, by definition.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's a public zone, so you can pick
and,
anything out at anywhere.
You can. Oh, hang on though. What if I scry with my Grenzo Dungeon Warden deck?
Oh,
watch out!
oh
like,
my god! Let's just keep adding these. Let's adding all these possibilities
and
on
all these
there.
anecdotes. Let's keep putting anecdotes into this, and then we'll like get to a point that benefits somebody. Anyway, so that's Surveil. That's a new mechanic. We've gone on about it, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Also, just want to add, it's very important that Magic is really important that Magic is also like willing to change all this shit. I think it's important for the game's health that they are willing to go back and errata these cards, and I think it's not the end of the world. A lot of people talk about like the sanctity of cards. Like classic reading the card explains the card. That should still ring true. I should be able to read a card and it does explain the card. But I think, especially in the context of things like Landfall and Surveil, and obviously what they're doing right now, it's easy to understand.
All right, next piece of news. Double Magic. Hang on, I need to have a cough.
On the news train. We're on that news.
All right, next piece of news. Keyforge.
Oh.
Keyforge is coming back.
I say I loved Keyforge. With a D at the end. I loved Keyforge. I played heaps of Keyforge. I played the first 3-4 sets. I played all the way to Mutant Madness, whichever one that was.
With like the double TRX.
Yeah. Yeah, the mutant
merge cards.
Merge cards, yeah.
Yeah.
Meld,
sorry.
Sorry. But yeah, no, so I love Keyforge, but tell us all about what's
All right, so, in case you missed the news, Keyforge, now run by a gaming company called Ghost Galaxy Games, which was created by the former head and founder of Fantasy Flight Games, Christian T. Peterson.
That's great.
Has blown past its funding goal on GameFound and is coming back to the tables in 2023, along with a special Keyforge celebration event happening this month in November, where we'll get a first look at how they plan to run organized play.
Which is the make or break.
Yeah.
Because like that's
what broke Keyforge. Yeah.
That's what fell apart.
Look, Keyforge was fun. And it was really interesting opening up a deck and then just playing it because I'm also a big fan of sealed environments.
Yeah. And the swapping the decks.
Swapping the decks.
The core gameplay loop of we open a deck each, we play, we swap the decks, and then if there's still a like 1-on-1, I think we like roll off for the last.
No, there's a power tracker, right?
Of course.
That you can then bid on who would get the stronger deck, but the catch would be that you would start with a lower hand size, and then that power tracker reduces every turn, so your hand size gets bigger as the game goes on.
I thought how convoluted that was, because like also Keyforge was really convoluted in the sense that like you would go to events, right, and then you would record the number of wins on your decks, right?
Yeah.
And then your deck would gain chains on the deck. And the more chains your deck had, the less cards you were drawing. But every turn that you had chains, you would burn chains.
You would burn a
off your
chain
deck.
every turn, yeah.
But you... Oh, sorry. But you couldn't... Could you... There was like a point that you couldn't burn chains down to nothing in the middle of a tournament. Like if your deck had tournament chains, there was like a level where you couldn't beat that. Like it's a long time ago now, chat. But I remember the tournament scene being very convoluted. Like decks just... very hard.
It relied quite heavily on the computer element of it, running the game.
Yeah, it had a whole, like, it has a great online database. Must add that.
Yeah.
I will add that. It has a great online database.
And then there's also the whole thing of apparently the algorithm broke, but, you know, it's rumors, it's innuendo, but apparently there was a hack and a ransomware attack.
Oh, okay.
So...
I mean, it's always hard to, like, I don't want to say trust, because, like, you know, we want to trust people, but, like, it's always hard to defend. Because, like, every single person, everybody is saying, we're getting DDoSed, or we're getting, like, attacked.
Yeah.
You know, Overwatch, like, our servers can't handle all these people, we're getting attacked. We're getting malicious attacks. Like, no evidence of this.
It's a DDoS attack, everyone. It's not just the fact that we weren't expecting 25 million players.
Yeah. Producer Piper is a big fan of Overwatch.
Sorry, just on this side of Blizzard, you think if every single online release they do has DDoS attacks, maybe they're just not prepared for online releases.
Maybe that's all it is. And this might be exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
But I also remember that Keyforge decks, like the random generation of their decks, was also a little bit on the nose. Because I remember there were a couple of decks that were going around the cycle with names that were a little bit
questionable.
Like,
yes.
You know.
Look, from a store perspective, Keyforge never really got up for us.
Never.
We tried a few launch events. We tried running a few organized play events. They never really kind of like took off. From what we saw, Keyforge was kind of like everyone's second game.
Yeah, I remember talking about this at length years ago now.
It was like, oh, we're waiting for the draft to start. Well, let's just jam a game of Keyforge.
Yeah, and even then it was almost like, I feel like it was always everyone's second game, but also it was one of those games I feel like you just couldn't play constructed. You couldn't you didn't come to a tournament, like, okay, we're waiting for Magic Draft, we're waiting for waiting for any event. Oh, you want to play some Keyforge? Yeah. Do you have a Keyforge deck on you? Of course not. I don't bring a Keyforge deck. That doesn't seem very balanced. Okay, well, I have a Keyforge deck on me, right? Like, maybe that does happen. In this situation, like, you have to now buy a $20 deck to play Keyforge. And then the argument is like, but you cherry-picked this deck of yours out of all the decks you've opened in Keyforge. Because, sorry, for those at home as well, maybe we haven't said this on the podcast yet, but in Keyforge, the premise of the game is, or the premise of how you get cards, is that you buy a structure deck, and that's all they sell. They sell structure decks.
Yeah, they sell sealed structured decks.
That's what they do, right? And then they're totally, or at least to a degree, they're randomized. You get 3 random factions out of like 8, and you get random cards inside, and random amounts of those cards. Outside of like, there are like legendary creatures where you only get 1, and some cards say if you get 1, you'll get their other card in the deck that goes with them. So there's some malleable stuff. There's like the 4 horsemen in the first set, where if you got one of the 4 horsemen, you get all 4 in the deck. So it's that kind of stuff. But more often than not, it's like totally randomized. So that's the idea of playing this, like, oh, we open these sealed decks, we play these random decks against each other, we swap them, we go back and forth. So constructed-wise, it was like, oh, you're cherry-picking this deck out of your collection of decks, and then I have to go get a new deck. So the idea is with Keyforge that we always play a brand new deck against each other. We always buy one.
Yeah.
And they are $20 decks.
Yeah.
They're all like $15.99 or something.
They were like $16 each.
Yeah,
and
$16
it was, you know,
Australian.
Like, when you're And when you're coming in for like a $30 draft event now, like what's another $16? Probably enough to be like,
We could do a whole podcast on the inflation of everything in the card game world. We could do a whole episode about
and you know
pricing
what?
on things.
Maybe we will. So
Maybe
get in the
we will.
comments.
Yeah, let us know if you want to hear about that. But
So
this weekend gave you
I'm
some great insights on that.
So in a nutshell, with Keyforge, I'm interested to see where it goes.
We want to support it 100% because
We
the
wanna
whole
support
gameplay
it.
loop is fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a really fun game. And there's a lot of back and forth on it. A lot of
Yeah.
times I've won games with the opponent being on 2 keys forged
Yeah,
out of
absolutely.
3. So like it's a very good back and forth. Same with like
interesting.
because they're stealing resources and components from other opponent players as well. So I'm really interested in the game. I really want to see it succeed.
On that point right there, actually, on the whole, like, the way you interact with people, what I loved about Keyforge at the moment, why I really want to see it succeed, is that there were factions that would interact and factions that wouldn't. So what would happen is, you would open a deck, and you would get the archetype, my favorite archetype, and if you played Keyforge, you won't like me saying this, Diz. I love Diz.
Yeah,
Like, there was such
Diz deck right here
Diz
makes me play discard.
Makes you play discard. Yeah, see. So Diz are this archetype that's all about, like, they're like the smokestacks archetype of Keyforge. They're all about putting down cards that make things harder for your opponent to play, harder for your opponent to enjoy the game. And that's not super fun, right? Whatever. But the point is that it's highly interactive. But then it's super weak at generating its own resources.
Yeah.
And finds it very hard to actually win the game. So when you open that deck, you're really hoping you get Diz next to, like, Brobnar.
Yeah.
And Brobnar was like this barbarian race that you could put big creatures on the board. And while creatures in Keyforge aren't like Hearthstone, they're not like Legends of Runeterra or Magic where they have to kill your opponent's life to 0. That's not the goal of the game. But having creatures is still just fundamentally quite useful.
Yeah, because you use them
So-
to reap amber.
To reap amber. You may not know what that does, Chad, if you don't know Keyforge, but again, they're just useful. They're good. They kill your opponent's creatures, which do things like make amber and then that kind of stuff. So, I love that mechanic, that dynamic, of, oh my god, like, I opened a deck that didn't get any Diz. Okay, my game plan is not going to be fucking with you, so your game plan changes because I'm not going to fuck with you. And if I see that you have Diz, or there was what was library of what was
Those robots.
not Phobos because that's 40k. It's something like Lobos.
Lobos. Yeah.
So Lobos was like the
Logos.
Logos.
Logos,
Thank
yeah.
you. Logos was the Johnny archetype. It was like the I do big combo plays and interact with everything. And like Logos. Yes. Logos, thank you. Logos players are always going to be like Rube Goldberging and always like taking a long time on their turns and stuff, giving lots of time to think. I don't know. Let me just say, Keyforge is a really cool game. And I think that it was held back by its organized play and held back by its tournament presence. And I think what they did was they went really heavily into balancing. They said, chains exist, X and Y exist. Your that online database was so important to them because they made the game so convoluted to balance. They made a balancing system for a game that was very simple, and the balancing system was incredibly convoluted. Like, I also recognize, wasn't there like ban lists where it's like, if your deck has too many copies of a certain card,
You just can't
it's
play
banned.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Like, I remember playing a deck where it was Bad Penny
Yep.
in the first series was really infamous because she would you would reap with her, and if she was a 1 toughness creature and she would just reap. You'd make amber. And it came with a card, like you would get a card in the same archetype that would kill her for an amber. And her ability was put it back in your hand when she died. And all of a sudden, you had this deck where it's like very easy. Every turn, I go play, I can reap, I can kill her, I can put it back in my hand for 2 amber. And
then I play her again.
And I do it again. And the way Keyforge works, that was very, very powerful. It was very, very hard to interact with. They were just speeding up super fast because getting amber wins you the game. Amber, keys, 3 keys, win.
So Dis and the Thieves Guild were my like go-tos.
Yeah, 100%. So like that's where it was really exciting. But again, those needed to be fixed because those decks were broken. Like my mate Matt had a deck like that, and it was insanely powerful. Like he had a deck that had this like time traveler with his time traveler card, and he had 2 of these libraries and Logos, and his whole deck was like, I could very easily turn 2. I kid you not, go essentially infinite by shuffling these cards into my deck over and over again on turn 2, and you just go like, oh, and that's the nature of randomly designed stuff. So I'm really excited to see how they address this play because the chances are with a new company getting involved, they will go the antithesis of what the other company did. Often you'll see with their balancing, like with the core design elements, it seems okay. But with the balancing, it feels like they usually go, I've noticed, in the opposite direction. So
we'll see.
We'll see. Obviously, we'll see. We don't know, but it's so exciting. Keyforge is a really fun game. If you haven't played it at home, guys, I feel like playing those sets, if you can find those decks now, really enjoyable game still. It's just one of those things where the tournament scene wasn't there.
Yeah.
And card game players who are drawn into Keyforge, the market that automatically works for them, that's what they want. right? And you need to be sold Keyforge otherwise. And let me sell it to you right now. It's great fun, and it's greatly interactive. So I think it's really good fun. It's really good.
It's a really good lunch break game.
Yeah, it's quick. Oh, that's most important.
Yeah.
I think we should say like 20-minute games.
Yeah,
Unless
really
it's,
good lunch break game.
Unless it's Logos. Unless
And then it's like 30 minutes, but it's
like
still a lunch
30.
break game.
Yeah, it's still a lunch break game.
All right, final piece of news. And producer Piper, you might want to look this up when we go for it because these will be cool now. Be prepared to take 1d6 piercing damage from that Lego brick you stepped on because D&D is collaborating with Lego on a Lego Ideas competition. I think the Lego Ideas competition ended recently. I think it ended at the end of October.
It's amazing.
But some of those sets now will go through the Ideas system, I believe, with Lego, where people can vote on them, and we could probably end up with some Dungeons and Dragons Lego.
Well, we just got announced the Dungeons and Dragons Bakugan, which are like
Oh yeah, the
they're not
dice slings.
the dice
Yeah.
slings. So like we've got new like Hasbro toys that are like little transformers, and they start as like a D20, and you unravel them into a creature, and like they all look really good.
Sorry, is
except
that a
for the
mind
owlbear.
flayer?
Yeah, that Mind Flayer looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they pop open into like a thing, but it's unfortunate. I
So
can't actually
cool.
see what's happening. Unfortunately, I don't
Oh
have
my
a good
god,
angle.
it's awesome.
But I will have a look soon. Oh, there we go. Now I can see him. Oh, that is cool. Look at that.
Yeah,
Wowza.
that's rad as shit.
I'm a huge fan of busts in general, I think, so.
Yeah, so I think the competition was any monsters or scenes or something.
Oh, well, Mind Flayer's going to win if it's
The
a monster.
idea
Come
intake
on.
ends on November 14th, and then it's reviewed after that.
Oh,
So
There's still time.
there's
There's
still
12
time.
days left.
If you're in the comment section,
If you're in the comment section and you're within like a very short window of this video
there is
going
a
live,
very small window.
there's a chance that you can go and get your Lego idea made. So jump onto the Lego website and get that happening.
I know it's D&D, but can you imagine like a really cool like massive Horus Heresy, like it's like the Imperial Palace Lego
Bro.
display?
Lego's already expensive.
I know, it's already bad.
Don't need to tack on the
you
Games
imagine,
Workshop
yeah.
30% license fee.
Well, so I think it'd be the same rate as Star Wars, wouldn't it? Because you have the 30% Disney rate, so
Oh, that's true.
it'd be about the same rate. So we call that the evil tax. That's the pure, unadulterated evil tax. You know what I mean?
It's the global conglomerate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
the-
the cyberpunk level megacorp.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the we made it peon, like tax. You know what I mean? Like
We
sorry,
own everything.
sorry, you're a statistic to
Hey,
us.
more now.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Disney Plus, huh?
All right. Well, that's the news roundup. Let us know in the comments if there's any cool news stories you want to see us cover and have a chat about.
Yeah.
And we're gonna move on to the topic of this episode, which is the
The
magic.
core topic.
The core topic, which is Magic 30th anniversary. But before that, there'll be an ad read. So
Whoa.
we'll do an ad read. This show is brought to you by Vault Games. If you're looking for your next hobby fix, jump on over to vaultgames.com.au where you can pick up anything you need to enjoy your tabletop hobby. Be it board games, RPGs, trading cards, minis, or paints and tools, Vault Games will have it in, or they can order it in for you. With shipping Australia-wide and now 2 locations in Brisbane, they can get your order to you, or you can swing by and pick it up yourself. Use the discount code FROMTHEVAULT for 5% off your order.
This show is also brought to you by TCG Singles, powered by Vault Games. Do you have cardboard you want to turn into cash? Head on over to tcgsingles.store and enter your buy list of Magic or Pokemon cards right now to convert them into cash or even store credit to grab what you need for your next deck. Use the discount code from the Vault to get 5% off your order, or use the code LELINE to get 10% off your first order.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room for Magic, 30th anniversary.
Elephant
The room.
This is the
The
generous gift.
The Loxodon, if you will.
Yeah, the generous gift of Magic Gathering. This is when
Magic
they
Gathering.
destroyed our permanent and gave us a 3/3 elephant and said, "You wanted that more, didn't you?" Nice omniscience. I'm assuming you wanted a 10 mana 3/3 elephant.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about the 30th anniversary. It's like, Jamie, pull generous gift up. Wait, we don't have a card. No, never mind. Never mind. We don't have a card pull up. I don't know why I thought we did.
It's on the browser.
It's on the
All right.
browser.
So, Magic 30th anniversary. Let's run down what it is, what's going on, all that kind of stuff. Well, weekend just gone.
Magic went 30 years. Magic went 30 years next year.
Magic actually doesn't turn 30 until August the 5th in 2023.
Anyway, go on, Dylan. Tell us all about the
So
product.
they're having
It's
a
a lie
massive
anyway.
they're having a massive celebration, a year-long celebration, and it kicked off with an event this weekend, I believe, in Vegas. That all accounts to
Oh my
Reddit
God.
was an absolute train wreck.
All accounts to it. I've seen the image.
One
like,
person had fun apparently.
One whole person. For how much was a ticket again? It was like 350
It
Australian.
went really high. The Black Lotus. I almost considered getting a Black Lotus just to go along and see what it's all about. Thank God I missed out on that. It was like 800, I think, for like Black Lotus. It was something ridiculous.
You know what I mean? Far out. That's a very expensive
and
token.
The entire Magic community has been talking about not just the 30th anniversary event for those that went and those that missed out, but also the new 30th anniversary collectors boosters.
Yep. Which are 4 boosters, right? Or is it one booster of like a lot of cards?
One booster. It's one booster of like 15 cards, and there's 4 boosters in a display.
Sorry, yes, it's 4 boosters. Like it's normally like there's a 12 per box. But these are 4 per box.
Yeah. So these are Double Master VIP.
They're Double Master VIP packs. That's what they are. Which, if you remember the discourse happening around that product, you'll probably recognize the discourse happening over this product.
Yes. So,
which is that it is fundamentally cardboard.
Yeah. And the big key here is they are reprints of cards that are meant to be on the reserve list that are never meant to be printed, reprints. But they're not tournament legal because they have entirely different card back.
Yeah. And they're also just marketed as being entirely tournament legal. Like, even if they had the same back, they just said no, they're not that legal anyway. Even they don't have the same back for that reason. Except they've always done both championship decks, special stuff like that.
So they have like retro frame borders of dual lands. They have modern borders of the Power 9.
Yeah, and like the OG duels.
And OG duels,
that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it's a huge set. It is a huge set. And
it's some very interesting cards, but they're not legal to play in any format except at home. Which, to be fair,
is
home,
interesting, isn't it?
You probably can just print them or write on a piece of card saying this is my Mox Oval.
But let's take a step back as well at home. Let's say you can't. Let's say that's not okay. Let's say by definition that if you could just do that, like everyone would just do that.
Yeah.
And because let's be fair and say that like socially, we're not looking at doing that, right?
Oh no.
All right. Now, even if we're not looking at doing that, right, and we're playing casually at home, right? I'm still going to use things, like in the grand scheme of the game, I'm still going to use things like silver borders and gold borders.
Yeah.
Because I'm still going to do things that are fun for me in our pod as long as everyone's happy with it. If everyone's happy, I'm still going to do that, right?
Yeah, if your pod allows it.
Yeah, of course. And this is what makes it so interesting to me, right? What your pod allows, we're talking about, we're going back to this colloquial commander kind of this conversation, right? It's almost like, in modern, you don't have like a rule zero. You don't have like what's best for the pod because that doesn't exist. It's you and your mate playing more competitively.
Yeah.
But in Commander is a good example. It's what the pod allows, right? And a lot of the time, right, your pod will allow what you're having fun with, right? Like I know people who have played Grizzlebrand as their commander because their pod's been like, okay, you're not going infinite with Entomb and Reanimate. You're not trying to get like a bunch of like Necropotence level advantage for 2 mana. We're now going to allow you to do it because again, it's just a big demon. You want to play a Liliana tribal deck? That's cool. Play your big demons in it and try to trigger like her, win condition with the enchantment, like her contract enchantment. So that's a really cool deck. And this is what I'm going to. Commander, right, which implies that these things are okay to do, these like fake cards. You play them in the game mode because you play whatever you want. Again, you could just print them on paper.
Yeah,
you really could.
You could.
That's also just happens to be totally randomly, by the way, chat. Kind of like the most important format for Magic right now.
Yes,
this format that people generally say, you can do whatever you want. And to attest to that, our tournament has a proxy rule where if you own cards, you can play proxies of them. And this is not going to apply to.
They have to have a very high value.
Very high value. It's more convoluted than I'm giving credit for.
Yeah,
sorry. It's a very convoluted system. But
I need to make sure we say this because it's actually we're not really meant to have a proxy policy.
Yes, we know
WPN
that.
says no.
We know that.
But we're much more reasonable in the world of Commander, right? So
yes,
for us, our big thing is, as long as your card is valued at $50 or more, you have to have it on your person.
Yes.
To be able to run a proxy of it.
That's correct.
It can't be in another deck.
That's correct. It's very, I think more accurately than the $50 price tag. It's like more case by case. I think it's that's true. It is. We tend to be around. It's an expensive card that we expect that you don't want to take out and put into a sleeve, and we want you want to keep in your binder. Any card that has that kind kind of value to you. Even personally, we're usually okay with you could play a proxy of that.
If you somehow have like a 9.5 gem mint
Gaia's Cradle, for example.
Gaia's Cradle, and you want to run it in your Elf Bomb deck, like cool, that's great.
You bought it for that reason.
You bought it for that reason. It's okay to have a proxy as long as you got that slab there with you while you're playing, so that we know that if anyone ever says, hey, do you actually own that card, you can be like, oh, here it is right here.
Of course. And this also goes into, more importantly as well, not just the idea of, oh, I don't want to buy expensive cards, or I want to avoid funding the economy that is secondary market Magic. It's more accurately like, do I have really cool altars? Or more accurately, like I've got proxies that I've downloaded online, like, or I've made myself. We've got people in our community who design full card art, and will make proxies of cards.
Yeah.
And that's their creative outlet, and that's what we want to support. We want to support people making altars and proxies and such. That helps us do that without them having to put acrylic paint on their Gaia's Cradle. They can print a new one, and that we're not trying to let everyone just kind of play 8 Gaia's Cradles in like one in each of their decks, and everyone brings one to the casual table. Not at all how that works, and that's why I'm saying it's all case by case.
And that's why we say that you have to have it with you, and you have to have it not in another deck.
But see,
because the key is there, right? Like a lot of people say, oh well, I mean, I own one Psych Rift, but I have 5 blue decks, so I just have it in that. Well, we only play one prize round, my man.
Yeah, exactly. So
put it in the deck.
Yeah, you can make the deck for the event first. That's definitely right. And again, that's why it's always case by case. It's like, what's the intention?
Yeah.
Like again, it's like, do you just want to pub stomp people on repeat because you have one Cyclonic Rift and you'd like to have it in all of your decks? That's probably not a cool thing to do, bro. Like, I mean, Cyclonic Rift is fine. I'm not trying to say that's uncool, but like, as in that thought process is probably not super cool. But again, sorry, we're going on a long tangent here about about proxies and our policies. But more accurately, what I'm saying is, look at this conversation we're having, and look how convoluted already just allowing people to play proxies are, right? Now we look at the 30th anniversary product again, and I say to you this, right? I say right now with confidence, this product is designed to reprint cards that they want you to play in your decks.
Yeah.
This 30th anniversary product is very obviously designed so that you play the cards. They're not designed, I'm sorry, it is a fallacy to imply that they're completely collectible, and that they're exclusively proxies of cards that go into sleeves, go into top loaders, go into whatever your hard cases, and then have a 9.5 or a 10 stamped on them. That is not their exclusive design. In fact, I would say there is a level of their design where that is true, but I would say a large chunk of their design, definitely a majority of their design, is people will buy these cards. They will buy them for their collectible value, but there are going to be people who buy these cards and play them at home. Because, for example, if I want to buy a booster, right, and I have the money, I can justify it, whatever.
Yeah, you can justify the $1,000 USD price tag.
We'll get to that in a second. We'll come back to that. Let's say I can just justify the ridiculous price tag associated with this product, right? And I want it for the collectible value. I buy the product, I open the cards, and I don't get the collectible value. I don't get any of the Power 9. I don't get X, Y, and Z, but I pull a Tiger, right? And my Blaster Combat DJ Transformers modular deck could really use a Tiger. Yeah. It's a green-red deck, right? And like, whatever, like I got matte sleeves, it's not going to be a problem having it on the different back. You can't see the back. I've got these horrible, like, blood red matte sleeves.
Yeah.
So out of nowhere, like,
you're able to play it, and
I'm able to play it, and I'm able to justify it.
Yeah.
And if I talk to my group of friends and I explain to them that it's a Tiger, they're going to go, whatever. It's a mountain forest. I get it. It's cool. Don't worry, man. You got the card. It's physical. You can play it. And now we're at the point where it's like, we've hit this just was reprinted. Tiger was just reprinted.
Yeah.
Like, I was just able to buy a new Tiger that was printed days ago and play it in a game of Magic, which is the whole point of the reserve list, that you can't do that for me.
Well, the problem we have from a store level, right, is that it's going to be a bigger problem over in the US, because it is extremely prohibitive in Australia to get it, because WotC has not yet understood how international shipping can work. So they
it feels like even Hasbro. It feels like somehow one of the biggest companies out there, like Hasbro, still can't work that out either.
Can't work out, like, just can't be bothered doing their own logistics.
That's what it's not even can't work out. It's won't be bothered.
So shipping from like Secret Lair is like $97 or something like that.
They've
US.
stopped free shipping over a certain amount outside of America as well.
And they've
So
done
like
that too.
you can't just order like 3 Secret Lairs to make it worth your while anymore.
As an Australian, yeah.
Well,
because that's what we used to do all the time. Like the most recent Secret Lair drop was one of my most excited Secret Lair drops, right? The Junji Ito Secret Lair, all that amazing stuff. I think it's all gorgeous. And I was really excited to invest in the product, and I missed out on it this time. I missed out on the Junji Ito product and he's one of my favorite artists. I missed out because I was like, I literally cannot justify like $150 for 5 cards.
Yeah.
That I'm not like, again, they're not going to have the collectible value that you think they do. The Secret Lair cards have value, sure, but that's not like. I'm not going to wait around until Mr. Ito like carks it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, no, I'm not trying to be. But like that's what I'm saying.
And that's the only point that would go up in value.
That's
is
the only
spike.
time,
Yeah.
is when the artist dies, which is unfortunate. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. So no, I think that it's really unfortunate. Sorry, my point is it's really unfortunate that these secret layers have lost their free shipping. Because, like, again, a product that I really liked and invested in and gave Hasbro and Wizards money on repeat to purchase.
I mean,
I can no longer justify doing.
I've bought secret layers before we got them as WPN Premium. Like, I bought the Coldheim Titans. That was probably one of my most favorite secret layers ever. I was like, oh my god, can I get Croxa? But it looks sexy as yeah.
Oh my god. Right?
But back to my original point.
Oh, sorry.
This is going to be essentially hell for US stores because any organized event as a store, you can't run proxies.
By definition, that is correct.
Now, for us as a store, the only format we need to worry about is really Commander, and Commander's much more looser on that front. So
yeah, and like
I said, we have our little policy about you can play the big shit proxy, but you have to have it on you to make sure that we can verify that you have it.
And importantly, our Commander,
because it's still a collectible card game. Let's get real here. It's a CCG.
Of course, it is. That's very important to mention. And I want to add as well, very quickly, is that we are also at our Commander tournament. I like to pull away from that word. We run what we have as like a social event.
Yeah.
People come along, they play Magic, they want to engage with each other. It's a social event.
Yeah.
It is, by technicality, it is a tournament, but it's not framed the same way.
Yeah, it's just an organized event.
It's an organized event. But we're talking about the context of tournament play.
Yeah, now if you're looking at like tournament play or even in-store organized play for Legacy Eternal formats where you need dual lands, you need Power 9 to exist in, right?
And they're available to you now.
And now they're available for, what is ostensibly a little bit cheaper than just buying them.
And genuinely, that is true. It is actually crazy to think about this.
Not a lot.
It is not by a lot, but
by
the way, you could also spike in your boosters, and then you just get way more value. If we're saying the value of a tiger from this booster is, let's just say that because I've saved the money from the tiger I would have bought from Revised, this has the same value as the Revised tiger because I've saved that money. Let's just say
if you're looking at it from a calculation of I want to play this eternal format.
This card.
And I need this card for it. I either need to buy a legitimate card or at this dollar value, or I'm getting that proxy from from the 30th anniversary edition. So when Eternal and Legacy formats are huge, and they are massive in the US. They are massive formats in the US. We do have an Eternal scene here in Brisbane.
Yeah, we do. There are players that play it.
There are players that play it.
Like events. They do run them.
They're not massive, but they're still they're decently attended for a format that is essentially like if you haven't been playing since '96, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money.
It's hard to get into.
So yeah, it's gonna be really hard for those stores to be able to police this when essentially WotC has created a situation where counterfeit cards, I'm saying that loosely.
I think it's fair to say, no, that's a fair analysis. It's a fair analysis.
Are now going to be indistinguishable apart from the card back.
Now, in the context of obviously the more modern frames, we can say that that's
notice. You've got a modern tiger. Well, obviously that's not real. But yeah, if you're looking at reprints of the Power 9 in their original frames, yikes.
Yeah.
Judge deck check every game now.
Which is, far out. But okay, so, and this is what I talk about with a few people, people get upset. Sorry, your mileage may vary, of course, but conversations I've had have also kind of come to this, legacy problem where it's but who cares? No one plays Legacy, or at least, the majority of players, let's say at least 90% of people, aren't playing Legacy. Nobody is in that format. And it's but these people that I speak to are Australians. And the Australian format is so much smaller than the American format. Because Americans, and this is the big thing about America's culture as well, which is so crazy, because it's a bit like this in Australia. But Australia is like a microwave meal, like a 2-minute microwave meal. It's very warm on the edges.
Yeah.
And then the very center, well, ironically, it's hotter in the center, but whatever. The center of Australia is nothing. In the context of civilizations, mostly nothing.
Yeah.
So traveling from Perth,
If you look at a population heat map, it would be a microwave dinner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a microwave dinner. So thank you for helping
No
out with the
worries.
context there
Gotcha.
for everyone at home, because Trent just has brain diarrhea. But point is so in Australia, the culture of traveling between states isn't like America, where people do these 4-hour road trips all the time to get from A to B,
and then
traveling
hit
all across
3
America.
tournaments on the way through.
Hit 3 tournaments on the way through, and that's also how they're designed to allow people to do these big things. That's how a lot of the culture is over there. So I feel like with America, you might even have those small pockets of those players, but when they can join up, when they kind of divulge this one area, it's a lot of players out of nowhere. Whereas when Australians kind of come to the same area, it's a Brisbane event might pull some people from Sydney, and it will pull people from the Gold Coast and the Sunny Coast. And then that's about what you'll see. Maybe some traveling from Melbourne if you're lucky, but that's what you'll see. Even
if the flights are good and Jetstar doesn't cancel.
Jetstar. But anyway, so no, this is from Melbourne, not to Melbourne.
Oh, that's fair.
Anyway, I'm kidding. Yeah, PAX anyway. So, point is, that's my point. You're not going to have as much traveling. So the legacy format is quite big, and that's really important to kind of pin in, because a lot of these issues people have with these sets do actually stem from those formats. It's not really a Commander issue, because really what it comes down to is in the context of Commander, this is what I wanted to kind of talk about too. I want to kind of open up a new perspective. In the context of Commander, and we pull out from all these other formats, what is the problem with this product? Let's say there's no other formats that care about these cards.
Okay. For me, it comes down to the future of Commander, right?
Okay.
So it's quite obvious that Commander is a heavily supported format from WotC HQ.
They've announced that plenty of times now. Yeah, that's their focus.
It is there is discussions. I have heard on the grapevine that there is discussions within the Commander Rules Committee and Advisory Group about finding a way to better support stores in how those events are run. Because Commander is becoming a key play format in stores now as well. It's always been a key play format for us here at Vault, and we've kind of
dawn,
we've kind of massaged into this event format that works. It's not the best.
Yeah, exactly. Good, but not the best. It's don't fix it. It's working.
It's working.
It ain't broke.
That's the feedback I've gotten is essentially, oh man, there's just something broken about it, but
there's something small.
I don't know how you do it any better.
Yeah,
that's the best I can do. But as this format becomes such a heavily supported element and a very big key piece of Magic over the next, let's essentially say 5 to 10 years, if anything happens with Magic, the next 5 years are going to be so Commander focused. We've already seen it the last 2, and the next 5 years are only going to go down that well deeper. As they become more and more focused on Commander, and stores are shifting towards Commander play as a monetizable event format.
Of course, yeah.
Because remember, you should support your local stores by playing in them and paying for that playing.
If you want to.
And
if you want to play card games, you may not know this yet. That is what you want. I promise you. Try it out. But yeah, it's one of these things where you should support your I think you should support local game stores, but I also think you should be aware of, what also you want, what you want to do. Because I see a lot of people who do get invested in the Commander scene and play a lot of Commander in tournaments, and they may or may not find it to be the best because they're the kind of person who wants to play kitchen top Magic more.
They want to play that old school battle cruiser or very one thing per turn. Oh my god, it's big now.
Yeah, insanely basic Magic.
But as we move into this world where Commander becomes there's a requirement for Commander to become a monetized format for stores. And you've just essentially thrown, as you being HQ, when I say you, I mean HQ, as HQ has essentially, Wizards has thrown in this massive pool of not legal cards.
Correct.
That, to be fair, if stores outright allow, can no longer become Wizards play stores.
That's true. So we have to assume that these are not going to be made legal. The conversation here is not the context of we're going to make these cards legal in Commander. The context is simply that these cards are being released. These proxies are being released. These collectible items being released that look like cards. And then they're being released into just Commander. That's the context. So not necessarily that they're legal to play, because we know they're not, right? And it's more like, what happens, right? And this is what's more important to me. What happens when these cards are totally legal to play? Let's be honest. When I'm playing with friends, when I'm playing at home.
Yeah.
And then
how does that translate into a store?
Yeah, and I get used to this idea, and then it translates to a store. And, this is the thing that I want to jump in with a bit of mileage, because, like, with a bit of my experience, and that is that, people tend, and this is the only reason I think, and a lot of tournaments I've seen, the only reason the proxies ever get even allowed is due to community feedback. Like, we did not say as like a company say, we love proxies and we really want people to use proxies, so we're going to make rules that allow proxies. No, of course not. What happened was our community were like, a lot of us are playing decks that have lots of, like, proxies, not for the reason that I want to play broken cards. I don't have a CDH deck that's 100% proxies. Yeah. It's, my proxies are like, this is my Geralt, like Geralt from The Witcher as Shevel, Bane of Monsters from Ikoria. And I actually got a proxy of him. And I want to play Geralt. This is pre-Stranger Things, pre-Walking Dead, whatever. And even, I guess, even post that, because there's not a Geralt variant. And now that there are so many variants like Godzilla and shit, you might want Geralt. So that's what it was. It was people who want to play their really cool creative outlets within that space. And
then there was also the other people that didn't want to shuffle their Bayou 130 times over 2 weeks.
That's a good point too.
So,
which is important. But then I like to tell people, like, personally, for me, I say, when you invest in Magic, you need to know whether it's like you're buying or you're investing. Those are two very different things. And I think that I'm sorry for those at home who may not agree with this, and that's what this is all about. Jump in the comments if you don't agree with what I'm about to say here. But when you buy cards that people exclusively invest in, you are also investing in that card.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Like, Bayous aren't, I'm sorry, I do not believe there is a single world out there where somebody bought a Bayou, right? Because they desperately needed a forest swamp. Now, this is not in Legacy, this is only in Commander. Desperately, no. I promise you there is no way. You bought that Bayou for the clout of having a Bayou. Like, or you bought it because you wanted to invest in this product that you knew appreciated. And if you know a product appreciates, and if you know it's a collectible item, you shouldn't be playing it in your decks. And that's, for me, if you wouldn't play your Bayou in your deck, you shouldn't be proxying a Bayou in your deck.
Yeah.
If you can't justify playing Bayou in your deck, you don't play it. Like, that's why I don't have a Bayou in all my decks, because I don't justify playing Bayou in all my decks. And we talk about this, right? Where it's like, it's not a case where it's like in a different deck and we allow you to put all your one Cyclonic Rift into all of your decks. Same thing with Bayou. We don't let you have one Bayou and put it into all of your decks. That's not how this works, because it's not what it's about. So for me, I like to say things like, I like to be on this space of the mindset of, this is an investment for me. Like, I own a Serra Sanctum and I own a Gaia's Cradle, right? I own both those cards. Mm-hmm. They're both over $1,000 at the moment, right? Australian, which is ridiculous, right? They are both simply inner sleeved in a deck, because I did not choose to invest in those. I wanted to play them. I bought them to play. They don't represent a mountain forest or whatever. They represent like a trillion green or trillion white.
Yeah.
They represent like I can untap this with
132
cards.
Green mana with all my 1/1 soldiers. Thank you very much.
And then I untap them with Seaborn Muse. So like, you know what I mean? And I have like my they're both in a green white Enchantress deck that I can untap lands in very easily. So you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, I really wanted this mechanically. But I also have I have 2 volcanic islands and 2 tropical islands that are in none of my decks.
Yeah.
And they just sit in a box and stay safe in a sealed box. And that is exactly, because those are not, I don't play those cards. And that's fine for you to play them, by the way.
UV light shall never touch these cards.
Correct. You should be allowed to play those cards. But that's the justification you're making. You either play them or you don't. That's simple as that. And I think that the more, and this is like another layer, which is important about these 30th anniversary cards, right? The more people want to imply that you shouldn't invest in the game at all, the less likely the company is to print the cards if you don't invest in the game. It's crazy how they require you investing in the game for their game to work, right? So, and it's also fallacious to argue that the secondary market is not on Wizards' mind whatsoever, and they don't have a part in it. They obviously do.
If they're lying when they say we don't think about the secondary market. If they were not thinking about the secondary market, these collector's edition cards, like booster packs, would not be $1,000 a piece.
They would not be $1,000 a piece, right? And that's because they want them to be, by definition, collectible. And I think it's like what we talk about, like Piper, our producer, we were talking about this last time actually. We talk about how it's possible as well that the price tag on these collectible items is simply there to deter a grand layer of the market from buying them. And then when hardly anyone buys them and they go out of print, they're genuinely collectible.
Yeah.
Because now they're hardly any out there. And some people have used them and they have played properties, you know? And then a lot of people have not. And they're all like your mint properties. And then if that's where the cards are all at, all of a sudden now they're like really, really really collectible cards. So there is a layer where and I think that's important that we do. That is part of that's obviously part of their thought process. They've obviously had that discussion among their teams. We're two guys in a fucking bunker. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a whole team of people. I'm not crazy. I'm not controversial for saying they made product to sell money, make money. But, well, that's important, I think, as well.
Well, that brings me to my whole like thought process my whole thing behind it, right? Now, I realize what's going to come out of my mouth is extremely hypocritical now after just spending a better part of half an hour talking about it.
And morally, we can agree that the only bad thing to be is a hypocrite, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, ethically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone should just stop talking about them.
Actually, here's an important point, okay? Here's an important point. You know what I enjoyed a lot noticing very, very recently? How well Double Masters 2 collector boosters are selling.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Really well. And I remember $130 for a booster pack. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to buy that. That's out of this world. And now nobody's talking about that.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about 30th anniversary. Yeah. And all of a sudden, look at this. $130. That's like nothing. For like real cards that have real value. And I can play them in a real tournament. Or $1,000. Holy shit. That's expensive for fake cards.
Look, that's just marketing pricing.
Obviously, right? But hang on. That's important. That's like really important, like framing. Look at that. These and this is not a case where I'm just like, oh, I heard a customer say it in the store the other day. No. Tracking the sales numbers of our Double Masters 2 collector boosters, which I've been actually doing, because they've been interesting me a lot.
Even our Double Master singles.
Even draft boosters, of course. Yeah, even draft boosters, right? But all of them shooting up in like how many we're selling, and how well they're doing, and we're looking at investing in more product. We're going to buy some more because we can, and that's it. And those products sell, and that's like we're not preying on anyone here. We're selling product that people want. Again, we're not selling 30th anniversary. We're selling Double Masters 2, which you can use. But again, that's the whole level of people should stop talking about it, because now you've got products like $130 booster packs of cards, which is still a contentious point.
It is.
No longer is it a contentious point among the community. Nobody wants to talk about it anymore.
So when I say stop talking about it, obviously, again, we've been talking about it for 30 minutes. And it's probably going to be the title of this episode too.
We're kind of the worst.
Don't talk about 30th anniversary, episode 1.
Episode 1. Yeah, we don't want to talk about 30th anniversary. Let's talk about that. Yeah,
let's talk about that. The key here is to understand it from a business/marketing perspective, all right? So,
all right.
There's two things that we do in marketing. We look at keywords and engagement around those keywords.
Like Noble. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Bro, you gotta let that Necron shit go.
That's deep, dog. If you've watched all our hardcasts, you've watched a lot of our content, you'll know what that joke is.
There's keywords around marketing, and then you have sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
Sentiment analysis is about judging what people are thinking about at that time, right? What are the feelings around what's being said, all that kind of stuff. Sentiment analysis is a lot more expensive. It takes a lot of time. You've got to run through either AI machines to understand what's being said, or have a massive human database that can set that sentiment for you. So it could be quite expensive, intensive, and time-consuming to do a sentiment analysis. But keyword analysis happens every day and every hour. I can, at any point today, I can pull up my computer and look up the keyword for Vault Games and then see what our number of mentions are, what our engagements are like, and how many people are talking about us, right?
Yeah, like keywords like cringe, shit, garbage, boring, lame. None of those apply to us.
I was scared where that was going.
I was watching you get more and more stressed.
Yeah, blood pressure skyrocket on that one.
Yeah, cringe. Oh, my blood pressure.
But the keyword analysis, right? It doesn't tell you what people are really saying. It just tells you that people are talking about it.
Yeah.
So every Reddit post that is like, man, 30th anniversary sucks. Well, guess what? Bing! 30th anniversary.
Yeah, that's what's most important.
So
that's the very convoluted way of saying all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
Which is why shut up, because all publicity is good publicity.
Yes and no. All publicity is publicity. That's essentially it.
That's true. That's what I said is the layman's way of saying what you said. What I'm saying is like the colloquial way of saying what you said.
Well, not quite, because it's not about being good publicity at all. It's just all they see in marketing. They don't see what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think that's what I think the term all publicity is good publicity, or bad publicity is still good publicity. I think that's what that's implying.
Yes, in a nutshell, yeah. As far as marketing is concerned, all publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, all publicity is publicity.
And that means I can justify my paycheck as a marketing guy.
Yes.
So by just talking about it, everyone having these very strong and, to be fair, in my opinion, correct opinions on the entire 30th anniversary thing.
Is it correct because it's yours? Sorry.
This is the internet.
Shut up, Trent. Don't say it like that, all right? That's not what I'm about to say. It is.
Yeah, I think that people just need to... We've all said our piece about it, and now we just all need to shut up and let the 30th anniversary stuff, like this whole booster product, just be consigned to oblivion where it belongs.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say the damage has been done. And say that I think that you know what's funny? I think it's important that we say and this is ridiculous. We can't expect this of people, especially with where this is like hundreds of thousands of people and there are possibly like 17 viewers today.
Yes, that's true.
So I think it's impossible for us to like project this, but it's like, it's not stop talking about it. It's if you have a problem with this, contact. Do I need to pull it closer? All right.
Yeah, get it nice.
Sorry, go really just like
get it right in the.
Love this. All right. So So it's just kind of like leaves as I let go. So I'm gonna try and turn my There we go. Okay. That's better. Yeah. All right. So just lean into it. Lean right into it, chat. Anyway, so where was I? Shit. Sorry, chat.
The damage has been done.
Thank you. The damage has been done. It's one of these things where it's like, if you have these problems with the product, there are other people to talk to, and it's probably not just like important to throw it up on Twitter and start complaining. When this happens, right, it becomes this like this kind of bell curve. Well, like it's more like a bouncing bell curve, right? Yeah. Of like interaction, where it's like what I was trying to imply earlier is this is exactly what happened with Double Masters 2. People got the information came out. People had about 5 seconds of thought process about it, got angry, blew it all over the internet. The product became very, very well known within Magic. Then they sold some to the whales. Then this new product came out and everyone's angry. But they're not angry about that product. And now that product's selling to everyone because it's not the most expensive product.
I think I should also say, when it comes to Double Masters, everyone was really angry about it and took 3 seconds and then started shouting about it. But the second it started getting opened, people saw the numbers that were coming out of those boxes.
Yeah.
Everyone shut up real quick.
Real quick. And that's the layer, right? We're not there yet for the 30th anniversary. We're not there yet. It hasn't been opened up. We're not there yet. I know it's not going to be the same as Double Masters. I'm not trying to imply it.
Some people at 30th anniversary events over the weekend did open it.
We did some of our...
You could see there was some very interesting things about vendors buying packs and watching the price they would pay for packs plummet over the course of 24 hours.
Yep.
But yeah.
Obviously, I don't think this is like directly applicable to like Double. It's not like a one-to-one
parallel.
It's not a
one-to-one. But again, Double Masters has real cards.
Has real cards. But my point is like what I'm more talking about is this like kind of response that we have of like where there's a level, there's like a toxicity to like, we're done complaining now, it's time to shut up because we're about to come to the new product which we'll start complaining about, because that seems like, for the last 2 years, the pattern. That seems like
that's where I want to get to,
okay.
Right? When the next product comes out like this, because, look, I agree with you now. The damage is done.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago when people were like, Dylan, what do you think about the 30th anniversary? I was like, just shut up. That's
what I would say to people. I'm like, just shut up. Like,
just don't talk about it.
It's not a product. They'd ask me like, "What's your favorite card from the set?" I don't have one.
I don't have one.
There's no cards in the set. It's not a set.
It's not a card.
There's no cards. There's no set.
Technically not cards.
Go grab an Epic Encounters for Dungeons and Dragons off the shelf and tell me what's your favorite Magic card in there, because we'll have the same conversation.
Yeah. So when the next product comes out, and it will come out because
it will,
like Thanos, it is inevitable.
Yes.
Don't talk about it.
Try it.
Just don't talk about it. Go, oh, cool. Just don't talk about it. Don't even put comments on the YouTube channel from WotC announcing it.
That's 10 times more important than simply talking about it. Like, absolutely don't put anything in the comment section. Absolutely ignore the like button. Ignore the subscribe button on their post. Get their comment section. Or I send it all to us. Send that energy to us. But the point send it to us. But the point is like, get that energy out of that space, because that space, you're wasting your energy because all you're doing is feeding a machine.
Yeah.
If you're talking like colloquially amongst your friends, that's probably fine. I still think that does a lot of damage. So I still think you should shut up. But I feel like that if you want to just talk about it amongst yourselves, that's fine. But when it comes to that projection on the internet,
yes.
That's where it's most like, that's where the analytics would just go, are you talking about it? Yes, no.
Because that's what you need to start feeding into, right? You need to be able to basically what needs to happen is it's not just don't talk about it, just don't buy it either.
Oh yeah, don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Yeah, sorry. We're not trying to say like say nothing and then invest heavily. No.
Don't. If you consign it to oblivion, if the marketing guy can't find the mentions of this product, they will not do the product anymore.
That's it. You know what it is? You know, if you there's also this layer, right? If you say nothing, right, and you say to your friends like, "Nah, product's bad," and your friends don't buy it, right, and then like you and like let's say 70,000 people do that, right, and then let's say that you each have 10 friends, right? So that's about 630,000 people who didn't buy the product. Then you heavily invest. Now you're the only person with the supply. The demand goes up.
Wow. Okay, that's
Wow, Trent, that's the most bullshit analytics you've ever done in your life.
That's
actually
there's certain people who think like that.
That's embarrassing analytics, Trent.
Particularly on this platform. Anyway, look. If you want to see proof of
Don't do that.
Look, think back. If you're an old hand of Magic, think back to Kamigawa set, the original Kamigawa sets, the original Kamigawa block.
Yes.
No one gave a shit. Sale numbers disappeared.
Yes.
And then they said, Kamigawa, we just don't really want to go back to it. It took a concerted effort on Reddit and the community saying, you know what? I really feel like we should... Kamigawa was done bad. We want to go back to it. And only then did they start looking at Cyberpunk Kamigawa.
And that's another layer, right? Where they then had to rebrand the whole plane. They had to rebrand the whole plane and like give it a massive time jump and change up everything about it till it was almost just indistinguishable from the main set. But only just could you see the frames of what you once knew. Then the product sold.
So...
And they justify
so
you making
really,
the
if you want proof of it happening in the past, look at the Kamigawa block.
Look at Arabian Nights, honestly, even further back. Have you ever heard of the Rabia scale? I recommend you Google search the Rabia scale Magic the Gathering, because that's the answer. The Rabia scale, I mean, there's a lot of layers as to why that exists, but that's important too.
The scariest thing for a product is for people to forget it existed.
Yep. Or more importantly, for people to like want it to not exist. I think that's also important. If they can project somehow that they want it to not exist, and the only way I think you can do that genuinely is by being silent. Like your silence speaks much louder than anything else.
Yeah.
So was that brought up on the screen there as well?
I did, but there was a really weird pop-up ad on the side of the wiki.
Cool, good stuff.
So
We'll just block
it.
that one. In editing, we'll just cut that one out for a second.
What was the ad?
I can't see from here. It's one of those like fucking like Darius looking ass phone ads.
The choice is yours.
It's one of those terrible. We were talking about.
Is he beating his wife? Is that the whole joke? Anyway,
God.
So we'll cover that up. But basically, this is just like a Wikia page I think you brought up. But, basically, the Rabia scale is like, there's a plane called Rabia. We're never going back, and it's because people hated it. It's a long story. It's much longer than that. Look it up. It's very interesting. But yeah, also you can just pause on this page at any point during the podcast because Piper's brought up for us. Lovely. But that's like some information there. But you can find some more outside of just the wiki as well. Like do some research. But it's really interesting, and that'll teach you a lot of stuff the same way Kamigawa will. If there's one thing we know about Magic the Gathering and Wizards, it's more often than not when they set precedent, they strictly set precedent. They follow that precedent. And that's a good example of what they'll do. They will follow that precedent and be strict about it.
Until people, and then if people really want this product again, then they can start a Reddit campaign and see how that goes.
And that's it. And then, I think it's a great time as well in history in general to engage with developers, just in general. Like, it's a great time to engage with people. Like, it's so easy to contact people in the great space of things. I think some people, especially in my generation, like, we're so used to the idea of, like, celebrities or even just, like, people who are open in the visual space, like people who are well known amongst, kind of Western culture.
Yeah.
Those people are like, that world is so unattainable. Those people feel unattainable. It feels like I'm not just going to message Taylor Swift and she's going to get back to me, right? Like that's right. That's C's fallacious.
Hey
T Swizzle.
It's
your
T
boy
Brooks.
It's T Dog, and I just want to say happy Halloween.
Digging the new album.
I love Anti-Hero. So good. I feel you. I've been there.
Disappointed I didn't get the call up for the video.
Yeah, kind of upsetting.
We'll talk on Tuesday.
Yeah, I sent you 5 messages in the last 5 hours, first of all. Anyway, I'm kidding. So my point being is that, we got used to this idea that you can't just contact people. You can't just that's right. But that's not true anymore.
No.
When I was a kid, when it was 2006 or 2003, my landline didn't go that far, right? But I also lived in a hole.
And the
but
internet, whenever if you try using the internet, your mom would order pizza and then that's it.
Well, we had a USB stick that was a 2 gigabyte dongle.
Oh, you had the dongles.
It was genuinely the least my least favorite technological experience in my entire life. It was the worst thing I've ever used. But anyway, point is, my mom thought it was new age. Anyway, point is we had nothing like that. So, and I mean, that's also my anecdote, but I want to add that, like, I think a lot of people in my generation have this idea. Again, you know, it's 2006 when you're growing up all the way up to 2010 and you go like, okay, I can't engage with these people. But I'm talking like, for example, John Banks, a man who, one of our regulars here, I've known him for many, many years, over a decade now.
You might see him on the podcast.
You might even see, if you like and subscribe, ring that bell to get notified when John Banks. So, point is he's just a great guy. You'll love him, chat. You'll love him. But, and he's really, really smart. Point is he's doing research right now, which is why we're probably getting him on the show, around Magic the Gathering Commander Social. And like every single person that I know within Magic the Gathering, you know, all the CAG, the Commander Advisors Group, the Rules Committee, even people like Gavin Verhey who work on Commander product, John has spoken to all of them in his research. He has contacted all of them, and he is able to organize meetings with all of them. And he's an Australian, like he's a professor, he's a QT professor, but doesn't change the fact that he's able to just contact people, and with the persistence of like, I want to get this done, able to just contact these people and get the information he needs. And I think that speaks bounds to like engagement and interaction in 2020s and onwards, you know, dating video. But today, in modern day,
for those that are watching the video in 2031,
yeah. I know the last heat wave was really tough for you guys after the ozone layer melted out. So just make sure you stay like about 3 feet further underground for the next winter. Anyway, point is if you're watching this, doesn't matter. In the modern day, it's so easy to contact people. And that's what you need to do. If you're a person who hates these products, actually contact people.
Yeah, don't scream about it on the internet.
Don't just scream about it on Twitter in your own little like vacuum and circle, because yes, all the comments will say, yeah, we fucking hate that product, yeah. But every single person you're engaging with is also engaging with the product and also selling the product. Like every part of what you're doing is feeding a horrible beast.
And that beast is called marketing.
I thought you were going to say Mark Rosewater. But yes, marketing. No, that is actually correct.
Mark is great.
Maro.
I
love Standard. Sorry. I didn't mean that, Mark. If you're watching, I love you. All right.
Please come on the podcast someday.
Dude, please, honestly, come on the podcast. Come on my podcast. Podcast is code.
Those are our thoughts about Magic 30th. Next year is the actual 30th anniversary. You know, who knows? Maybe Vault will do something ourselves for 30th anniversary.
Oh my god. We definitely will. It's not even like we've talked about it. We really want to do something.
We love Magic. We want to celebrate it too.
Also, it's the 30th anniversary of Vault. Like, come on. Like, what are you going to do?
Yes, the cosmic entity of the Vault has been around for much longer. Some say eons.
Yeah. I would argue. Give or take 30 years. What's next on the podcast? What are we talking about next?
Well, we're
talking about 30th anniversary.
So now we're going to have a game. We got a little fun game for the end of the podcast here. We're finishing up soon. So I've put together, in honor of the new deciduous Evergreen mechanics into Magic the Gathering, I've put together a little bit of a game for you, Trent.
Okay, I'm excited for this.
Guess the mechanic.
Guess the mechanic.
Yeah, I've got a series of rules.
Okay.
That then have the mechanic on them. Producer Piper, if you could bring them up. Oh, look at that! It's so good.
Do I need to be able to see this thing?
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I read it out to you. All right. So, if we go to the next slide, you see that we're going to start with the easy ones.
Okay.
All right. So, we're going to go with the first one. The first one is attacking doesn't cause this creature to tap. What's the keyword?
Oh, that's a tough one. Fuck. Vigilance?
Yeah, it's vigilance.
All right, it's vigilance. Yeah, that's crazy.
All right. And you can play along at home too, chat. Don't forget, let us know in the comments how many of these you got right. And be honest. Really, we all know.
Be honest.
All right, next one. Whenever this permanent becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless that player pays cost.
Ward.
Yeah, that's Ward. Yeah, it's a relatively new one. Enjoy that.
Relatively new one.
All right.
You'll see a lot more of that.
Damage dealt by a source with this ability causes that source's controller or its owner, if it has no controller, to gain that much life.
Lifelink.
Yep. Lifelink. Classic.
Easy as. This is getting harder. Here we go.
This permanent or player can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control.
Well, that's just hexproof.
That is hexproof, not Shroud.
Ward is easy to confuse with Shroud.
All right, we're on to the medium ones now.
All right.
Cost, reveal this card from your hand, return an unblocked attacking creature you control to its owner's hand, put this card onto the battlefield from your hand tapped and attacking.
Ninjutsu.
Yeah, that one's easy.
That one's good. That's a classic. I've been there.
All right. If this spell's ability cost was paid, return the permanent this spell becomes to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step, and as long as this permanent's ability cost was paid, it has haste.
Oh. Is that Dash?
It is Dash!
Yes. That's Khans of Tarkir.
Yeah.
That's Cards
Alright.
of Tarkia.
Here's a good one. Whenever this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +N/+N until end of turn.
Oh, I always get these two confused. I want to say that is Bushido.
It is Bushido!
Yes! I always think it's
shit.
Rampage, but I always get those two mixed up.
no.
Bushido.
Well done.
I've been in the game for a long time,
I
folks.
think Rampage is just when it gets blocked.
But it's for each creature blocking it.
Yeah.
That's the important one.
You may cast this card from your graveyard if the resulting spell is an instant or sorcery spell by discarding a card as an additional cost to cast it.
Wait, so... Sorry. Piper, can you be a big favor and just move over to the side so I can see the screen so I can read a little bit? That might help me a lot. You may cast a card from your graveyard if the resulting spell is an instant or sorcery spell. You may cast a card from your graveyard if the resulting spell is an instant or sorcery spell. That's a weird wording. By discarding a card as a additional cost.
You will only find this ability on instants and sorceries.
I'm going to assume it's then Jumpstart.
It is Jumpstart.
It's Jumpstart!
Yeah.
Yes! I was like,
All
my
right.
brain was getting locked there. I was like getting back and forth a bit, but Jumpstart.
Great
Here we
set.
go. Here
All
we
right,
go.
Into the hard ones. Here we go. All right. Cost, sacrifice this permanent, search your library for a creature card with the same mana value as this permanent, and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Activate only as a sorcery.
Sacrifice this permanent. Search your library for a creature card with the same mana value as this permanent. Oh my god. Sacrifice this permanent.
Come on, human gatherer.
Oh my gosh. Like it seems like it's a pot effect, right? But it's not a pot effect because that's not even a core mechanic. Same mana value. Sacrifice it. See, because it seems like it's
This is the keyword ability.
yeah, it seems like it's almost very akin to oh,
Don't go swearing on me now.
I know. No. Oh, this is so hard. It reminds me of I'm trying to remember the name of this mechanic, the one that's like discard and search a card with the same CMC. But it's not sacrifice. Cost sack. I have no idea. Is this not hang on, let me think.
His brain is breaking right now.
Yeah,
everyone.
this is hard. I sacrifice this play a creature card with the same mana value as this permanent. I'm gonna have to pass. Chat, what do you think?
Here we go.
This is hard.
What is it, Piper? It's
Transfigure. Oh my god, Transfigure. How many cards have Transfigure?
I think it's like 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say how
I
many
think it was
cards?
the old Innistrad set.
The old Innistrad set.
Oh no, the old Innistrad set was the instant sorcery one that you were thinking of. It's older than that. All right.
Transfigure. Look at that, chat. Transfigure. Jesus Christ, I
All
haven't
right.
seen that before.
A creature with this ability can't be blocked by creatures without it, and can only block creatures with it.
Shadow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
That's Shadow. Let's
Recently
go.
printed on what, Douthy Voidwalker?
Oh yeah, that is Shadow.
Yeah,
Didn't
in
know-
Modern Horizons 2. All right. Damage dealt to creatures by a source with this ability is dealt in the form of -1/-1 counters.
Wither.
It is
It's
Wither.
Wither.
I thought I was going to trip you up.
Yeah, almost had Infect going.
Almost had
Almost
Infect,
had
but
going,
didn't
no
mention poison counters.
no
All right.
poison counters.
And finally, this one I think was only on 26 cards. Whenever this creature attacks, you may choose to have target creature defending player controls block this creature this combat if able. If you do, untap that creature.
I know this. I know this mechanic.
Do you?
Yes.
Do you?
There is a sliver that gives all slivers this mechanic.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I know this mechanic. Because it has to be. Yeah, it's only it's a creature that can block it if able, right? Yeah. It's like an A. I think it's an A word. I want to say. It's. It's on to my.
It's the hard ones.
It's so hard because it's like it feels like I want to say enrage, but that's the dinosaur trigger. It's not aggro. It's I'm so close to it.
Please don't make that noise so close to the microphone.
I know. Let me think. Oh, it's so close, chat.
There's probably someone screaming in the comments right now.
I know. I'm so close.
Trent, it's this one. What are you doing, Trent?
It is.
We needed a timer on this shit, Piper.
We did. Okay, I'm thinking. This will give chat the time to look it up, so don't worry. They don't have to pause the video. They can just think,
Don't worry, chat. You don't need to pause.
uh,
Trent's giving you the time. Go on, squeeze it out of your brain.
oh, it's so close. I'm looking at the card right now. I'm looking at the card in my brain. I know what it looks like. I'm picturing it. Provoke?
It's Provoke! You got it! Yeah!
It's Provoke! I was like, we're so close. Provoke. Yes.
Yeah, that's 11 out of 12, Trent. Well done.
All right. Well, I just muted my mic by accident. Had that fix it, Piper? Sorry. All right. So, Dylan,
Yeah, you got something for me?
I got a game for you, but I didn't create a PowerPoint presentation. So
Yeah.
chat will just have to theater the mind this one because I did this one secretly. So I've got a little game as well. So I got what? One of those wrong?
One of those wrong. You
One
got
of
11
those-
out of
all
12.
right, 11
How
out of
many
12.
did you get, chat? Let us know in the
Chat,
comments.
Let's know why it was 12 out of 12. So I've got only 8 here.
Yep.
But what I have on the same keyword conversation, I'm going to give you 3 keyword mechanics.
Yep.
3 of them out of 3, 2 of them are real keywords. They are unitalicized keywords. One of them is not
It's
a
not a
real
keyword. It's not a keyword.
It has
valid.
an italicized keyword, which means it's just like a flavor thing.
Or it just doesn't exist.
Or it doesn't exist more accurately, right?
All
Let's
right,
go
hit
with
me-
this. Here's
hit
the
me with
first one. This one, spoiler alert, you may already know the answer to this one. The first one here is which of these 3 is not a real keyword? Lieutenant,
Yep.
horsemanship,
Horsemanship, yep. Well, horsemanship is a
and
keyword.
crew.
Crew. Oh, yeah, we talked about this earlier.
We
It'd be lieutenant because that was
Lieutenant.
a flavor keyword from the Commander 2014 set.
It might have been later than 2014. It might have been from like
No,
with
it was the Obnixilis. I had a Lieutenant Demon of Wailing Agonies in the Obnixilis deck. Yeah.
Of course. No, you're right. So the next one.
Yep.
Bestow,
Yeah.
ninjutsu,
Oh,
undergrowth.
Huh. All right. I'm gonna go with undergrowth because undergrowth usually explained what undergrowth did as well.
Bing, bing, bing. That is correct. Undergrowth was attached to the condition.
Yeah.
The next one we have.
Hang on one sec. Piper, has Trent already gone through all of these with you?
No, but I was gonna go undergrowth as
Oh,
well.
cool.
So
All right.
really
Yeah,
All right.
nobody knows these. I made these like in like
This
Yeah.
is perfect. Piper, I've
right.
got to phone a friend with Piper.
The next one. Monstrosity,
Yeah.
heroic,
Yeah.
protection.
Oh shit! Because protection usually has a caveat.
We're talking about italicized versus non-italicized. So
Oh,
even if it's
okay.
part of the keyword, that's okay.
All right.
Don't worry.
Then I'm gonna say heroic.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh.
Correct. Heroic was always tied to being targeted. Here we go.
Okay.
These next 3. Enrage,
Yeah.
retrace, trample.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to say enrage because retrace and trample are both mechanics. Retrace has a mana cost associated to it, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, but it's about discarding a land.
It does have a condition attached to it, yeah. You're right. It does.
Shit. Now you got me questioning myself.
You're a dinosaur player, man. Enrage.
It's enrage.
Keyword?
No, enrage is not a keyword. Enrage is italicized.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Enrage.
Gishathic Park, let's go.
The next one.
Yep.
Explore,
Okay.
exalted,
Yep.
Titanic.
where do you come up with these? Like this is insane.
It's Titanic.
That's tough.
Yeah, what is Titanic? I'll bring it up.
You
I mean, don't spoil it for
I
me.
can't bring it
Don't-
up.
Like,
Never
that's-
mind. I just
Yeah,
realized.
tough,
don't bring
isn't
that
it?
shit up.
We have,
Nice.
most importantly though, explore, exalted, Titanic.
Explorers. Look, I'm initially thinking explore because it kind of explained what happened as part of explore. Like you look at the top card if it's a land, do something. Put it in your hand, and if it's not land, leave it on top.
I personally am kind of thinking explore because if I recall, there was that like one merfolk that explored.
Yeah, well, it some of them explore twice.
That
Some of them-
Merfolk explored
true.
twice when
Merfolk,
you're thinking
yeah. It was the one green explore
explore again.
Maybe that
But
does make it a keyword.
and then there was some stuff that was talking about like if you've explored this turn or if you have explored.
What were the other two again?
Maybe.
God, Titanic.
Exalted.
Look,
Explore.
Exalted is a keyword. We know that. That's from
yeah.
that's from a Lara block. We're gonna put that
yeah.
aside.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So we're at a
That's good.
50-50.
I like that. Put that one aside. Yeah, I like that.
We know that Exalted is.
We know that.
Oh my god!
We're
I don't.
aware.
Are you messing with me now?
We're definitely sure. We're definitely sure.
We're definitely
Exalted
sure, right?
Is a mechanic. It's a core. Is a.
You know the really
It's a
sad
keyword.
part of this is I am a level 1 judge.
What are we on? Come on, guys. We got 3 more to get through after this.
Ooh. I'm gonna say Titanic.
What are you gonna say, Piper?
I'm gonna say Exalted.
The answer is Titanic.
Oh!
It was only ever printed once, and it was on the Bio Titan from the 40k Commander decks. But it sounded so real, didn't it?
It did.
All right,
It's so
the
real.
next one. Unearth. Hellbent. Ward.
Oh, Hellbent.
Easy. Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, that's if you have no cards in hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shadow. Afterlife. Engulf.
Shit.
Tough.
In Golf or Afterlife?
Ooh.
Afterlife had a number after it usually, and that was how many you created. Isn't that right, Piper?
Is it? Shit, is it?
I don't know, man. I don't know,
Okay.
man. I'm a Pokemon judge.
I like this. I like that. I'm going to call a friend.
I'm gonna phone a
No,
friend.
man.
Yeah.
What were the options again?
Shadow. Afterlife. Engulf.
Okay, Shadow's a keyword.
Surely. Right, must be.
We know that. It was in the
Oh,
last game as the keyword.
Surely. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, that could be right, yeah.
So you said was it Engulf and
Afterlife and Shadow.
Afterlife and Shadow?
I want to say Engulf. That's going to be my answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Piper Engulf.
Engulf is correct. Bing, bing.
Oh, yeah!
And now, for the last one, these aren't all, we've been playing the game for a long time. Not meant to be difficult. The last one is a little bit funny. I like this one a lot. Graft. Landfall. Reinforce.
All right. Okay. This is post deciduous kind of shit. So landfall is a full keyword now. So
Is it?
I don't.
Is it even?
Shit, I don't.
Is it
know.
even? Is that how that works?
You would be an evil game show host.
Because we're
Trent.
adding landfall that already exists on cards to newer cards. So whatever is true is still true.
Yeah.
So don't get confused. And more importantly, we're not talking about landfall. More importantly, graft, reinforce, landfall.
Oh, I think reinforce might have been the one.
Yeah,
think.
I'm definitely torn between. I don't know. Part of me just feels like I remember seeing graft italicized, and I don't know why.
But graft has an N counter at the end of it, right? Because it's how many 1/1 counters get put on the creature. So
Well, it's how many it enters with.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So by definition, right? That can't be italicized, right? It would have a number next to it.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I personally don't think that italicized don't have numbers. So I'm gonna.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna say shit. What were the options again?
It was graft, reinforce,
Reinforce.
landfall.
Reinforce is the non-mechanic.
I'm gonna go with graft.
It's landfall.
What?
Landfall is italicized, and it's why it isn't a keyword. It is still italicized. It is still a fluff keyword.
This game.
Good game, everyone! That was fun, right?
Let us know.
Good.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments how many you got.
They were quite fun.
That was
easy,
good
but
fun.
Quite enjoyable.
I enjoyed that.
That was good fun.
We're gonna be. That pretty much wraps up this whole podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely, mate.
Sponsored.
We're not.
We're not.
Frugal Company. Please though, let us know.
Trent will do many things for free Blue V.
Honestly, a Blue V sponsorship, that'd be crazy. Like a t-shirt even?
Subscribe to our Patreon so that Trent can buy more Blue Vs.
Honestly, yeah. No, I don't want to Patreon for Blue. Again, it's not that I don't want to support the drink, like drinking it physically, because it's nice. I like it a lot. But I want to be supported and sponsored by Blue V. Well, just Frugal Company. But Blue V specifically.
Yeah. None of the sugar-free white V, just Blue V
can't do
only.
that. Even green V guys, like, come on, have some
Questionable.
self-respect. Yeah, questionable.
So yeah, that's this podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you want to talk about. Let us know your thoughts about what we talked about today as well. We want to hear all that discussion. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Get the bell on, get notified every time a new video goes live here on the channel.
And our metrics care about all of those little things you do.
And
It's
they
totally free, guys, but our system cares about a lot of that. So
Yes.
please like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
And
Costs you
comment your
nothing.
favorite keyword.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, comment your favorite keyword.
Yeah, what's your favorite magic keyword? You know,
Tell me
or,
why
you know
it's
what?
Rampage.
Not even magic. What is your favorite keyword in general?
What's your favorite word?
What's your favorite key? Was it the key that you used
Key
on
of the
your
city.
school locker when you were at school? Was it the
I had a combination lock.
Was it the key that you used to annihilate your ex's car when they took the Xbox? Like, tell us all about it.
Tell us all about it. Christ. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back with a new podcast, hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll see how this one goes, and we want to do more of this cool stuff. So, best way to do it is get the thumbs up.
100%. And very quickly, like Dylan said, jump on the Discord. This is only the start of the discussion. We're
Yeah.
always chatting on the Discord. This is really only just the taste of it. Jump on the Discord, join us there, and we'll be always talking about this kind of stuff. So, and if you have any kind of, opinions on what we talked about today that either, it can agree with us, or even more importantly, you might disagree, we want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
Talk to us.
So, that's really it. Stay safe.
Thanks again, guys.
Wash your goddamn hands, everyone. Bye.
Peace off.